we want to start with another mince of fresh herbs. And this is going to be for a tomato tart. Here we've got some fresh thyme. And this will not work as well with dried herbs, so I don't recommend that you do it with dried. And so you want, about a tablespoon or two of that. And then here's some fresh oregano. So you want to take that off. Looks like marjoram. Marjoram's in the same family. And, I want about 2 or 3 tablespoons of that. So that comes off. And then some fresh flat leaf Italian parsley. About 3 or 4 tablespoons of that. Now, if you have to use dried, well, you're going to use less because dried herbs are a lot stronger. And you want to get those chopped up a little bit. And then with that, you want to put 1 small onion. There's 1 small onion and a couple cloves of garlic. And here you're making something that's similar to what the Italians call a battuto. You're beating down this mixture of onion and garlic and your herbs. And usually a battuto, is used to start the basis of stews and soups. And they become the flavorings for those stews and soups and some sauces. All right, so there is my minced mixture, and now we can get that up and just set that aside. That gets set aside for later. Pasta sfoglia surgelata, which means an already prepared puff pastry. Because you and I know that a lot of us do not have time to make puff pastry from scratch at home. So this is very acceptable. So you can go to the grocery store and you can find already prepared puff pastry. And there's mine. So now, what you want to do is just roll this out on a floured surface to fit the size tart shell pan that you're going to be using. And I'm going to be using a 10-inch pan with a removable bottom. And all you want to do is roll this out, not too thinly. And when it's cold, of course, it's a little harder to roll, but as you continue to roll, it will warm up a bit and make it a little easier for you to roll. So there's my dough. Here's my shell already buttered with a teaspoon of butter, you see? And then this just goes on the pan. And then give it some slack because this will shrink some. Just give it a little slack like that. And then take your pin and just roll over those edges, just so you have a clean edge when you're done, you see? And then take off that excess. Just like that. And this you can re-roll again, and make smaller tarts. And then just pinch that so that you have an even edge around. And then take a fork and just give it a few little fork marks. That helps to keep the dough in place. And a better insurance for keeping the dough in place is to put a piece of foil over the top, you see? And then you can either weight this down with beans or rice, or you can buy these. These are like baking stones or baking little marbles. And those you can use over and over again. Now, this goes into your preheated oven. And you just want to partially cook that now for about 10 minutes, I would say, not any longer than that. And then, when it comes out, put that down and bring it over for you. Then you want to take those beans off, you see, just like that, and you'll have your partially cooked shell because you want to do something to this now while it is still hot. Get out a good mustard. Usually I do make my own, and I'm going to show you someday how to make mustard. Set that aside, and then you want to have ready some cheese. And here I like to use Swiss, or you could use any number of cheeses, but Swiss is nice with this, and Asiago is very nice with that too. That's a cow's milk cheese, and I happen to have some pieces here that I've been nibbling on. So I want to cut that up into a dice, but again, imagination is the key here, and you can use any kind of cheese that you want. You want to spread that out into your tart shell, you see, just like that. And what's nice about this recipe is that This is like eating a quiche without the eggs. So for those of you who can't have eggs, this is perfect. And then here are those fresh plum tomatoes that I so much love. And now here's the trick with this. You want to salt these. Cut them up into slices and salt them, you see? Look what happens. Look at all the water that's draining from those tomatoes. Salt them heavily, and then you want to rinse them off, and then you want to dry them somewhat. So take them out onto paper towels and pat them dry because you don't want them to be too wet onto your tart shell. So let me start here for you. And then start putting the tomatoes on your tart shell in a nice random pattern. And of course, well, there's one that lost its center. If you wanted to be really creative, if this wasn't picturesque enough for you, well, then you could use some of those yellow tomatoes. See, there's one, came out of my garden. That's what the original tomatoes were called. So now, I'm going to continue on with all red tomato slices. And plum tomatoes are sweeter. They have less seeds than other types of tomatoes. So once the tomatoes are on, get a few more here, right there for the center. See how beautiful that looks? Then you can bring back over that battuto, you see? And here it is. And that goes spread right over the top. I hope you can see that. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Very pretty and very nice for a summer picnic. This could be taken to the picnic. It's toteable. You could eat it warm. You could eat it cold. As I said, you could eat it as an appetizer or with another salad for dinner. And then you want a drizzle of olive oil over the top, just like that. And now this goes back into the oven to bake for about another 15 or 20 minutes, or until that cheese has just melted down.